He once appointed his favorite horse as a high-ranking government official. He forced his own soldiers to strip naked and collect seashells as spoils of war. And when his sister died, he made it illegal for anyone in Rome to laugh or even take a bath for an entire year. Most people have heard the name Caligula, but they don't know just how dark things actually got before his own guards decided enough was enough. Caligula wasn't always the monster history remembers. In fact, when he first took the throne at just 24 years old, the Roman people absolutely loved him. They saw him as a breath of fresh air after the gloomy reign of his predecessor Tiberius. He granted bonuses to the military, ended treason trials, and threw lavish games for the public. He was handsome, charismatic, and seemed to represent a bright new future for the empire. For the first 6 months, it was perfect. But then, a mysterious illness nearly killed him. Historians still debate what it was. Some say encephalitis, others suggest a nervous breakdown. Whatever happened, when Caligula recovered, something inside him had snapped. The man who emerged was not the same one who had fallen ill. He was different, darker. The descent into madness began. He started small with acts of pure, unadulterated ego. Remember that fortune teller who once told him he had no more chance of becoming emperor than of riding a horse across the Bay of Baia? Well, Caligula never forgot, so what did he do? He decided to prove the prophecy literally wrong. He seized every merchant ship he could find, lined them up side by side to create a 2-mile-long floating bridge across the bay, covered it with dirt, and then spent 2 days riding his beloved horse, Incitatus, back and forth across it, wearing the armor of Alexander the Great. It was an engineering marvel that served absolutely no purpose other than to stroke his own ego. It also cost a fortune, completely draining the Roman treasury that his predecessor had so carefully built up. Suddenly, the empire was broke. With the treasury empty, Caligula needed money, and his methods for getting it became increasingly cruel and bizarre. He revived the old treason trials, but this time he used them as a cash-generating scheme. Wealthy citizens would be falsely accused of plotting against him. Their estates would be confiscated, and they would be executed. He introduced a whole range of absurd taxes on food, on lawsuits, even on porters, inside the imperial palace itself, and, in a move of ultimate humiliation, forced the wives and daughters of high-ranking senators to work there, with the proceeds going directly into his pocket. It wasn't just about the money. It was about power, about showing these powerful men that he could do anything he wanted to them and their families. But his ego didn't stop at mortal power. He started to believe he was a living god. He would appear in public dressed as various deities. One day he'd be Hercules, complete with a lion skin and club. The next, he'd be the goddess Venus, draped in fine silks. He had a private bridge built connecting his palace on the Palatine Hill to the Temple of Jupiter on the Capitoline Hill, so he could have private consultations with the king of the gods. He even had the heads of famous statues of gods removed and replaced with sculptures of his own head. He would stand in the temple and demand that people worship him, whispering in the ear of Jupiter's statue as if they were equals. To the deeply religious Romans, this wasn't just eccentric. It was blasphemy of the highest order. This blurring of the line between man and God led to one of the most infamous and baffling episodes in Roman history. Caligula decided he was going to achieve a military victory greater than any before him, the conquest of Britain. He marched his legions all the way to the northern coast of Gaul, to the shores of the English Channel. The soldiers, battle-hardened veterans, stood ready. They could see the white cliffs of the distant shore. They prepared for the invasion, expecting the order to board the ships and cross the water. The tension must have been immense, and then Caligula gave his command. But it wasn't the order they were expecting. He didn't tell them to attack Britain. Instead, he ordered them to draw their swords and attack the water itself. He commanded his legions to stab the waves, to fight the ocean. After this battle was over, he declared a great victory over the sea god Neptune. As if that wasn't strange enough, he then ordered his legionnaires to take off their armor, wade into the surf, and fill their helmets with seashells. He called these shells spoils of the ocean, the trophies of their great victory, and had them carted back to Rome to be put on display. Imagine being a Roman soldier, trained to be the most effective fighting man in the world, and being told to fight the tide and then collect shells as your reward. The humiliation was profound. Eventually, the joke stopped being funny. You can only push, humiliate, and terrorize the men with the swords for so long before they push back. The constant fear, the executions, the depletion of the treasury, and the sheer, unpredictable insanity had alienated everyone, from the Senate to the Praetorian Guard, his own personal bodyguards. The final straw came during a series of public games. On January 24th, 41 AD, as Caligula was walking through a dark, isolated corridor beneath the palace, a group of Praetorian Guard officers, men he trusted to protect him, cornered him. Led by a man named Cassius Chaerea, whom Caligula had relentlessly mocked for his high-pitched voice, they lunged. They didn't just kill him, it was an act of brutal vengeance. He was stabbed over 30 times. But their mission wasn't just to end his life. They wanted to erase him from history. Immediately after his death, the Senate ordered a damnatio memoria, a damnation of memory. His name was to be struck from all public records. His statues were smashed to pieces. His coins were recalled and melted down. They tried to make it as if he had never existed. But some stories, some figures are just too bizarre, too insane to stay buried. He was the man who declared war on a god and lost to a seashell. His reign lasted less than 4 years, but the tales of his madness have echoed through millennia. What do you think? Was he truly insane, or a brilliant tyrant using madness as a weapon? Let me know in the comments. Thanks for watching, and subscribe for more trauma from the past.